My name is Nicole. I am the Director of Abortion Care at Allegheny Reproductive Health Center. My pronouns are she, her, and I identify as a queer Black woman, bisexual, so I'm just free. I like to be spontaneous, have fun, but I also fall into the laziness and like the relaxation of a Leo as well. We like to relax, but we also like to be on top of our game. So it's like finding that happy balance. And then another piece of my identity, I like to be very creative and be open and honest, which is sometimes not the greatest thing. I'm very protective and loyal as well. And then everything that I am has to do with like music and being just able to be on stage and performing. I love doing that. Two of my favorite artists are Beyonce and JoJo. So like everything that is musical and creative comes from them for me. For me, I understand that life is not forever. And so for me, I just feel like what drives my passion is knowing that I have to make an impact for people. I'm not gonna be here forever. I'm not gonna be here a long time. So while I'm here, making sure that unfortunately, like no one forgets me. Like that is my motto. The one song by Beyonce, I was here, like literally live that. I want to make sure I leave a positive impact regardless of who I am, how I stand in myself. But as long as people remember me and as long as I was able to impact my community and my family in a positive light, that is what really drives me forward. So a lot of my current community work is revolving around abortion and really just ending the stigma that comes with abortion. So I'm working on a couple events regarding the importance of storytelling and understanding that one, not everyone who has an abortion experiences a tragedy when it comes to their pregnancies. Some people just don't want to be pregnant. Some people just don't want to be parents, and they are very valid reasons for someone to no longer continue a pregnancy. And so sharing those stories, but also sharing these stories of those tragedies of fetal anomalies and everything like that to really just normalize and bring more awareness to the community. I have a really big focus on storytelling just because I think that a lot of our stories help shape our communities around who we are as a people and what we can and cannot deal with. And so sharing those stories and sharing those experiences is very important. So a lot of my work right now is regarding storytelling, just really sharing experiences and building community in that way. It all kind of goes hand in hand for me. Like you can't have racial justice and have body autonomy. You can't have access to healthcare without it being affected by your racial identity. You'll see that, I see that daily in my work. There's people who have very limited access and you see their skin color and it's a direct result of them being Black or brown. So there is always that intersectionality. We don't live monolithic lives. And so connecting all of my work to reproductive justice is very important because reproductive justice to me is the basic needs of everyone, being able to just have access to education, birthing rights, and just bodily autonomy. And all of that is connected in everything that I do to make sure that people have the right to choose what they want to do with their bodies, what they do not want to do with their bodies, and to ensure that our stories and our communities are strong moving forward. Reproductive justice involves everything. It involves our education, it involves our socioeconomic status, it involves food security. So reproductive justice outside of healthcare, I think needs more of a push for people to understand that yes, our reproductive needs need to be met, but reproductive does not just mean if you can birth a person, give birth, it really also entails being able to take care of those people that you are birthing in safe, education-based environments and where you're comfortable. And so all of that kind of goes together for me. So I think the three pillars to be able to raise a family in a space that you want would be access to healthcare, because you have to be able to birth those young people in a safe space. Access to education, because education is very important for how we raise and grow our communities. And I think education is lacking, and the importance of education is lacking in a lot of communities right now, not just in Pittsburgh. Another very important one for me would be food security. and just access to food. There's way too many neighborhoods in Pittsburgh and around the country that are food deserts. And so that directly links to people, if they don't have food, they're not hungry enough to be able to take care of their education and take care of themselves. They're not fulfilled enough. So those are what I would say, those are the most important ones for me right now that I can think of. A future with reproductive justice is realized for me is long overdue, and I feel like it's still very far away because we are still a society that thrives on separation and the control of others. To be able to remove that control that capitalism has placed on all of our bodies and all of our beings, to be able to remove that would give us the space to have a reproductive justice-based society and communities that will honestly thrive once we honestly just get rid of capitalism and white supremacy. And the lack of education, lack of knowledge. They withhold a lot of information from us on purpose. And so a lot of these communities, especially Black and Brown communities, regardless of sexuality, are very limited in what we have access to. And I would say, again, just capitalism, it creates a cycle and a circle of there's always going to be people at the bottom. And historically, that has been Black and Brown people, and especially Black women in this country. So removing those two things would help give us a future that would be beneficial for Black and Brown people, regardless of sexual orientation and sexual identity. So for me personally, I've done a lot of inner work with going to therapy to remove my personal biases, being adopted and coming from a space and being raised by two queer white women. I've had a lot of relearning and reteaching I've had to do myself. And so after all of the work that I did, I'm trying to give that back to my community with those storytelling events, with just being able to work in abortion care. There's not a lot of Black women in abortion care to begin with. So being a safe space for Black women and Black people, Black queer people coming into the clinic has given me the ability to teach in those moments the importance of community and our roles and what we can do as a society. For me, the way that different individuals and organizations can support the reproductive justice movement is by actually supporting the people that are doing the work. The people that are being served have a lot of support, and that's what I'm always grateful for. But there's missing and there's a lack of support for the folks that are on the ground doing the work. And so by showing up for those folks, for us who are the workers, I think just by offering food, sending money, or literally just saying thank you more than just I see you, would be really appreciative and helpful for reproductive justice and workers in general. I think one relationship and one resource that needs to be better understood would be just insurance in general. There's not an understanding. I don't get insurance, how all of that works anyway, but there's also a gap where these insurance companies don't know what reproductive work is. And so getting more support regarding doula services, abortion doula services, just better birth work on an insurance level, and just reproductive work in general on an insurance level would be helpful. It plays a huge role. Wellness. I find myself not being able to provide the care that I know I can provide to my patients if I'm not well. So I really emphasize self-care and wellness to my staff at my job, and also just to my family members and friends. We can't show up and provide from an empty well. So that is really important. You can't provide and do your job and do what your passion is if you are too burnt out from your passion, unfortunately. For me, therapy, there's a huge push for therapy in my job from a management level. We all just really understand the importance of therapy and seeking that support in a non-conventional way for most people, whether that's talk therapy, CBT therapy, whatever they do. But for me in my job, I try to make sure that I'm following people's needs for days off and self-care needs. We give mental health days at work. During our staff meetings and leadership sessions, I also lead like breathing sessions, stretching sessions, and a lot of team building, so that way we can let go of any energy, but also bring joy back into each other with those moments. And I think also what's missing from self-care is like not necessarily like the importance of wellness, but the importance of joy and rest as well. And so I try really hard to make sure that my team has fun. I do a lot of event planning. We just did a huge cookout for all of the staff at my job, just so we can find joy with each other, because our jobs can be so difficult. My call to action to support reproductive justice would be to share your stories. Everyone is impacted by some form of reproductive justice, whether it's the education piece, whether it's healthcare piece, whether it's the self-care piece. But in all of that, everyone's story is legitimate and valid. And I think that if we really just shared our stories more, people would know where people are coming from. We can understand our communities and expand our communities a lot better and faster if we were just not as ashamed of all the things that we've lived through. Social media handles, my Instagram is at Queen Nikitra. And then social media handles for my job would be at WeAreARHC on Twitter and Instagram, and then on Facebook, just Allegheny Reproductive Health Center. Thank you for having me. This is great. Yay, that was fun.